Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Unfiltered commentary. And that's your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support. Hi, folks. Welcome back. From Florida politics, Ron DeSantis dominates another 2024 GOP primary poll, sans Donald Trump. Without Donald Trump, DeSantis looks very good. Former Vice President Mike Pence was a distant second. I like Mike Pence as a human being, as a father, as a man. I think he's a damn good man. I think he's just from the old school. And he was just caught between a rock and a hard place concerning the Electoral College. I'll just leave it at that. There's a lot of hatred out there for him by Trump people, and I'm a Trump person. I don't hate him. Things were done very badly in the the weeks after the election in 2020. I think Trump surrounded himself with some nut bars, to be sure, and took the wrong advice. I think he was shocked at the result. I'm not going to go into details why he was shocked, or those who think that things weren't on the up and up. I'm not going to go into that. It is what it is. Maybe someday the whole truth will come out. Who knows? Very much will be like what Bob Dole said, one of his parting quotes before he passed away, rest his soul. And he said was, well, when I go to heaven, I'll be able to find out if I can vote in the Chicago presidential election. So right to the very end, Bob Dole just gave him the shot. Let's read on. Governor Ron DeSantis continues to excite potential Republican voters in 2024 presidential primary, especially if Donald Trump doesn't run. And that's the thing. I know that Trump is a polarizing character. I get it. I understand. And it was funny when he won in 2016, the election in November. I said, it's funny. What Donald Trump had to do, what he had to say, what he had to do in order to win the presidential election is going to make him impossible to govern. And then, of course, the House and the Senate were both Republican controlled when he walked in. He had 2 years, and he got a lot done, actually. It wasn't for the court battles on the wall and other things. He would have got a lot more done. And, of course, the brakes got put on. The cold water got splashed on everybody with COVID. And that's just the way it is. Sometimes he pulled the inside straight to beat Hillary Clinton, and the cards were just against him in 2020. I think without COVID, Donald Trump would have won. I don't know about easily, but fairly easily in the Electoral College anyway. Let's read on. That's one takeaway from the latest round of monthly polling from Echelon Insights. Though 70% of the 439 registered Republican voters say they would probably or definitely vote for Trump if he runs again, DeSantis continues to build momentum should the former president not jump in. DeSantis is the choice of 30% of those surveyed in the field, not including the 45th president. Up 4 points from the same survey in November. Other candidates were far behind. Former Vice President Mike Pence is in increasingly distant second place, down 3 points to 12. And they got Cheney, Romney, Liz Cheney. I'm surprised she got 3%. They must be the 3% of the Republicans that hate Trump. Florida U.S. senators were afterthoughts in the survey. Meanwhile, Marco Rubio was supported by 2%, and Rick Scott's support was less than 1%. The poll was conducted from December 9th through the 13th. Despite DeSantis being a runaway favorite in the field, excluding the former president, his support wasn't strong in all Democratic categories. Now, before we go into the weeds in this, I want to say my personal opinion. I think long-term strategy for the Republicans when it comes to the White House should be this. I know Trump is polarizing. And I know they're doing everything possible in court to make sure that he's indicted for financial fraud and blah, 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 crock of crap. And he'll spend tons of resources, which he has, on lawyers. And they'll just try to do a death of 1,000 cuts on him. There's going to be no indictment. And even if there is, it'll be so lopsided and ridiculous. The trial would last 1 or 2 days. They're going to try to get their pound of flesh. The mainstream media, the vast majority of it, is on their deathbed, and they know it. And the only thing that can save them, at least temporarily, and it did last time, was Donald Trump. CNN and all the rest were going right down the toilet. And when Donald Trump announced he was running for president, they started making tons of money, or their viewership was way up. It was a godsend to them. And now that he's gone, they're slowly circling the toilet. And look what's going on in CNN. I don't even have to go into details. But I digress. I think long-term strategy, let Trump run. Everybody support him. No primary. Oh, there might be 1 or 2, like a Liz Cheney or around near one of those asshats. There'll be a joke. That way, not a lot of money and a lot of groundwork is expended. Get this huge war chest and do what the Democrats do. Get a great ground game. The Democrats are good at their ground game. They are the best. Mainly because most Democrat votes come from big cities where it's easy to knock on 50 doors or pick up absentee ballots. Whereas in the suburbs or the rural areas, to get 50 or 100 doors to knock on takes days. Where in the city, you can do it in a couple hours. With 3 or 4 people, you could hit 100 people easily. So that's a huge advantage. But here's the strategy. Donald Trump runs. He wins. Ron DeSantis is the VP. Now, we all know historically, and I think the numbers still hold, everybody that's been vice president of the United States has a 50-50 chance of being president, either through the death of a president, resignation, or election to president. 50-50. And I think Ron DeSantis' chances would be much better than 50-50. A lot can happen between now and in the spring of 2024. A lot can happen. That's 2 years and change. That's like 6 lifetimes in politics, but a lot's going to depend on the midterms. If you get this huge red wave, if they can just keep the Senate by 1 or 2 votes, the Republicans, they'll be set. I consider it a firewall against the Democrats and a firewall against President Biden. Ron DeSantis having 4 years of huge economic growth and the rebuilding of this country from the shattering lockdowns and draconian nonsense from COVID is going to open up. The American economy has always been the most resilient in the world historically and still is, by far. 4 years of Trump policies with a new Republican Party controlling the House and the Senate will just skyrocket the Republicans if they play this right. DeSantis would be a shoo-in after 4 years, and he's young enough to wait 4 years. This way, we get 12 years of a Republican president. And we haven't had that since Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush. And that's just me. Let's briefly go through some of it here. You'll see DeSantis among white voters more than double his closest competition. And you can read all the rest, Romney. And, they got Donald Trump Jr. in there. But Romney and Pence were close behind at 14%, 13% collectively among black voters. DeSantis wasn't favored very much with black voters, which I'm not sure why that is. But those were expectations to polling that showed DeSantis leading the field across all age groups and economic cohorts. DeSantis was especially strong with white voters with college educations. That's the thing. Female, college-educated, white voters. That's been a tough nut for the Republican, and especially tough nut for Donald Trump because of his personality and what he does and what he says. With 41% of those surveyed backing him. He was also the runaway choice of unvaccinated voters, and you can go on like that. I think what's going to happen is one thing, whether you hate Donald Trump, love him, or somewhere in the middle, he's made mistakes in his life. A lot of them, we all have. He's made financial mistakes. He's built himself back. He's come back several times financially. The fact of the matter is this. When Donald Trump makes a big mistake, one thing he does, he never makes that mistake again. If you see his interviews lately, they're a lot more toned down. Not so much in the topics that he's saying, but the rhetoric. He's learning. And he was getting very good towards the end. Very good. In fact, those press conferences during the height of the COVID were bringing up his poll numbers because he was doing very well at those press conferences. Even though Dr. Fauci was there, whatever. I don't want to get into that. Aggravate me. As the Italians say, give me agita. But he's learning, and he's developing his craft. Remember, he's not a politician. And he had 4 years as president, and now 1 year not as president. And he's slowly learning. I think when he comes out this time, I think Twitter will actually let him back. And if he doesn't, he can use his own social media network, which would be even better, actually. It will draw millions to the site and be competition for these social media monsters. But he's learned. He's learned you can be an SOB. You can be a dick. There's always a place for that. But you've got to pick your spots a little bit better. A little bit better. Like I said, when he won, what he had to do and say to get elected made it impossible for him to govern. Trump has a lot of faults. A lot of faults. But one thing he is not part of the deep state neocon uniparty. And that scares the hell out of all of them in Washington. And for that reason only, I think he should be president. And do what he does best. The day that he's sworn in, sign an executive order, fire as many people as you legally can. And the rest of them in the deep state, have them counting paper clips in a warehouse somewhere, but can't fire them probably because of the union. And get some loyal people. Use your gut. Do not listen to the old neocon Republicans. And he will have one of the most successful presidential terms, at least in my lifetime, and I'm 65. With Ron DeSantis right there the whole time. Taking up some slack. Just fighting the powers that be. They would make a great team. And then we would have 12 years of populist Republican president. And that could do nothing but good things for all of us. Until next time, goodbye and good luck.